Okay. Hello and welcome to Two Chicks Tell All. It's your girl Tay Tay here.
And Cece.
I will give a little disclaimer just in case we do get into anything. But the people and places that we talk about in this podcast, their names have been not mentioned just to kind of protect them. So that's that. I don't think we really came up with like a topic for tonight's episode.
We've gotten kind of a little slack on that somewhat.
Yeah.
And I was busy last week because I left to go out of town on Wednesday. My father turned 80. I'll tell you this funny story. And he turned 80 on Wednesday.
Oh, hi, Michael. One of my followers.
And he didn't think that I was coming in town until Friday. So I surprised him and actually showed up on his birthday. But he did not know that we had been planning this massive kind of surprise party for him back since I planted the seed in December because he turned in knowing he was going to turn 80. So he does yard work for his church and is real involved in his church. So luckily we were able to use the church to be able to plan this party. So it took a lot of planning and some, it was crazy because I didn't have some numbers of people that I knew would want to be included. So when I got in town Wednesday and finally managed that he got out the house and I was able to find some of the other phone numbers of people and start calling them. So long story short, we had a big group that came out and it was funny because it was kind of past his birthday and we made him think that we were just taking him out for dinner on Saturday, and I had gone to my girl's house on Friday night we used to do happy hours all the time. So I had to go see my happy hour girls. So yeah, he was thinking he turned 80 and nobody did anything. Unbeknownst to him that Saturday when he was led to believe we were taking him out to eat, my brother got him to the church and there was all these people there. So as he said, you could have knocked me over with a feather, but it was a great day of celebration for my father. And he's a real special man to me. So I was just glad to be able to be there and all. So anyway, Tay took on the role again of finding a topic. And I can throw some stuff in the end, but some stuff I kind of found, but she's going to really cover a story. She gets wrapped up in these and it's kind of interesting too, because a lot of the time she reports on these things and stuff I've never heard of. So I'm usually hearing it just like you're hearing it in the sense of this is the first for me. So what you got for us, Tay?
Okay, so I don't know if anybody is a big fan of streaming services, but I know that streaming services are kind of big now. You can watch a movie at any given time. You can watch what you want, when you want. It's all good. Well, they have a movie app called Tubi, and I always fall into the rabbit hole. Put a 1 in the chat if you always fall into the rabbit hole of Tubi. I find stuff that I didn't even knew existed, and I find all sorts of stuff that kind of interests me on there. So I'm a big fan of Lifetime type movies. So I managed to come across this movie called The Kidnapping of Hannah Anderson, which I just read basically the synopsis of what it was about and then decided that I kind of wanted to watch it. Well, I didn't know that there was actually this big, deep, terrifying story behind it. So I did a little bit of research behind the true story of the kidnapping of Hannah Anderson.
It's those Lifetime movies that get you every time. I mean, you don't think you sit
there
and then
fell
you're
into the rabbit hole.
What the heck? I'm watching this movie, and some of them sometimes are a little crazier than what you think you would normally watch, but you get sucked in.
Yes, you do. So I'm just going to give a little bit of background about this whole situation and how it went down. So on or about the afternoon of August 3rd, 2013, 16-year-old Hannah Marie Anderson, she was born July 22nd, 1997, was abducted after cheerleading practice from Sweetwater High School in National City, California. The suspect was later identified by authorities as 40-year-old James Lee DiMaggio, owner of a home in Boulevard, California, about an hour away, where Anderson, her mother Christina, and her brother Ethan had been overnight guests the previous evening. The bodies of Christina Anderson, Ethan Anderson, and the family dog were later found in DiMaggio's burned home.
Jeez Louise.
So, an Amber Alert was issued for Hannah Anderson, who was found alive in Cascade, Idaho on August 10th, which was a week after she was abducted. DiMaggio was killed by FBI agents during a shootout at the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness in Idaho, where he had been hiding Anderson at a campsite. So it's all kind of crazy because if you look into the actual story behind this, I don't know, like it's so creepy, like how people can be, and it's people that you would never expect. Like,
Right.
It's this James DiMaggio who is a family friend. He was he was the friend of Hannah's father. And Hannah's father was away a lot of the time, which I get into that. But he was away at work a lot of the time. So they put trust in like James DiMaggio to kind of like help with the kids and make sure that they were okay. But it ends up that he's this like sick person who just, is psycho and stuff. Like it's like I said, it's not people that you would, I guess, directly think would do this kind of stuff. So that's what's kind of surprising.
It's my leading double life here.
So on August 3rd, family friend James DiMaggio had invited Christina Anderson and her children to his home in Boulevard. And he was going to say goodbye because he was planning to move to Texas. So basically what had happened is he had just gotten divorced. He had lost his job. So he didn't really have a lot going for him in California. So his plan, and I put that in quotations because I don't really know if that's what the real plan was to move to Texas. So the Anderson family, who lived about 45 miles away in Lakeside, stayed over at his home. The children's father, Brett Anderson, was on a 3-month job in Tennessee at the time, which I had just mentioned that, like the father was away. The kids kind of needed to have like a father figure. And like, this was somebody that you wouldn't expect to like be this like crazy sadistic person. Like I would have never expected that in this type of situation that this guy be as sick as he was.
Right.
On August 4th, a fire was reported at DiMaggio's house in Boulevard, where firemen found the bodies of Christina Anderson, a child later identified as Ethan Anderson, and the family dog. Which I think I get into part of this in my research, but they actually suspected that Hannah did it at one time.
Oh, wow.
Because of just the fact that while this was all going on, like she was posting on social media and she was active and answering questions and, posting like nothing was wrong. And people, had kind of said, oh, like for somebody who's grieving, like something's not right here.
Right.
Which, I kind of understand what they're saying, but I also feel like we all grieve in different ways.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is just kind of better to, you don't know if she was really happy or not.
She could have been in total shock.
Yeah.
Too. And think about like that being traumatic in the sense that you just lost your mom.
It's very traumatic. Like you lost your mom, you lost your brother
and your dog.
Your dad's been away for God knows how long. Right. You were just abducted by somebody that you trusted. Like there's a lot weighing in on the situation. So I honestly, after reading up on it, I don't agree with like a lot of what the people are saying, but that's just me. An arrest warrant was issued for DiMaggio. In late September 2013, the San Diego County Medical Examiner's Office released results of the autopsies of Christina and Ethan Anderson. The autopsy of Christina Anderson found that a plastic cable tie had been used to bind her ankles and the duct tape was wrapped around her neck and mouth. Jeez. So basically, like the mother was kind of like tortured before she was killed, is what I'm gathering. So her right arm and both legs were fractured. Jesus. And there was a cut on her neck. She had been struck at least 12 times in the head. Damn. Which... This is, like I said,
messed her up.
Christina kind of trusted that, James DiMaggio be like a positive person and all this stuff. But it ends up that he was really taking advantage of the situation.
Right, yeah.
Is what I feel like. So the autopsy of Ethan Anderson determined that the boy died because of the fire, though he also had skeletal fractures that could have been caused by events the day of the murders. On August 4th, 2013, Anderson's grandparents called the police and reported their grandchildren missing, prompting police to issue a statewide Amber Alert, which at first they had issued an Amber Alert for both children just because they didn't know that Ethan had been killed, because it was a couple of days before they had determined what his autopsy was.
Right.
And like the results of that. Okay, so the first alert was sent out to cell phones in California. As the child's body was found in the burned out home, and it was not yet identified, the Amber Alert included both Hannah and Ethan Anderson. The manhunt stretched along the Pacific coast from British Columbia, Canada, to Baja California, Mexico. On August 7th, horseback riders spotted two people matching the description of DiMaggio and Anderson in Cascade, Idaho, and notified authorities after seeing a news report about the abduction. Which is kind of crazy. I mean, I don't know how the police system is everywhere, but I find it kind of crazy that James and Hannah made it as far as they did.
Right, yeah.
So that's what I kind of find just like shocking about the whole situation. On the same day that the sightings were reported, DiMaggio's car, a blue Nissan Versa, was discovered near the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness. The car's license plates have been removed and brush was used to hide the vehicle. On August 10th, police discovered DiMaggio's campsite, and an FBI tactical agent killed DiMaggio near Moorhead Lake around 5 o'clock p.m. after DiMaggio fired at least one shot at the officers. DiMaggio was shot 6 times in the head, arms, and upper torso. Anderson had no visible injuries, but was taken to a local hospital for crisis counseling, which I would think after going through all that, you would definitely need some crisis counseling. So I completely understand that.
Right, yeah.
Afterwards, when asked if she was glad James DiMaggio was dead, Hannah Anderson responded, absolutely yes. James Everett DiMaggio was age 40, and he was a telecommunications technician in San Diego, which is just a little bit of information about James DiMaggio and the whole situation. So, according to a friend, James's father, James Everett Lee Sr., was accused of attempting to kidnap a 16-year-old daughter of an ex-girlfriend in 1988, and he committed suicide on August 10th, 1998. Which I find it kind of weird that, you know, the dad was kind of doing the same situation that like the son was doing. So It's just like, obviously, I don't know, like the son didn't see anything wrong with this, I guess. Didn't see anything wrong with kidnapping anybody or anything like that. Just kind of a crazy situation. DiMaggio was described as the best friend of Brett Anderson, and he was like an uncle to the children, which they often called him Uncle Jim. He helped with various tasks, such as driving Hannah and a friend from a gymnastics meet, during which he had unnerved her by saying he would like to date her if they were the same age.
Oh,
which
that would make you feel.
If you watch the movie, like Uncle Jim was like a level 10 creeper. Like he was very obsessive over Hannah, and he very much, you know, was definitely a predator in this situation. During a trip to Los Angeles with Anderson, DiMaggio also complained she wasn't paying enough attention to him. Anderson's friends said she did not like being alone with him and was creeped out by his comments on the drive from the meet. Which
that's kind of enough. I mean, you wonder sometimes if there were. Did she ever like report any of that stuff? I guess not.
She didn't, but I almost wonder if like she was just kind of afraid of what the repercussions would have been.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why she kind of kept quiet.
Yeah.
But it's like I know that I wouldn't have kept quiet. I would have went and told the next person that I would have ran into about this situation.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, you know, this guy's being a major creeper. You might want to watch out. But, you know, that's just me. So DiMaggio listed Hannah's grandmother, Bernice Anderson, as the beneficiary to his life insurance in 2011 while he lived with her. A friend of DiMaggio said that he intended $112,000 be for Hannah and Ethan, but did not trust their parents to handle the inheritance. Which, I mean, I guess I can kind of understand that because DiMaggio felt like he was family to them. So I understand that, but I just still think it's really weird, like how close, like the closeness of the situation.
Right.
So, interesting fact, this prompted members of DiMaggio's family to request a paternity test to determine if he fathered the Anderson children. Which, I mean, I could kind of see like how the family was concerned and why they would want to do this, why they would want to pursue this. Just because, you know, he's treating them like they're his actual kids. So I can kind of see like what their concern is. So Brett Anderson, who was Hannah's birth father, called the suggestion disgusting, and an Anderson family spokeswoman said DiMaggio had not met Christina until she was 6 months pregnant with Hannah. The DiMaggio family later withdrew their request for DNA testing. According to released warrants, DiMaggio received letters from Hannah Anderson, which were found in his home by investigators, and exchanged over a dozen phone calls with her before the murders occurred. Which you have to think. So Hannah was about 16, I believe, whenever this happened.
Right.
Like, whenever you're 16, you don't your brain is not fully developed to the point where you can make like,
right, yeah,
you know, clear decisions, especially and stuff like this.
Right.
And,
a person that you kind of have like entrusted in the sense of he's like kind of being a stand-in dad. You know what I mean, too? Like,
yeah, it's like, you know, I understand, you know, this whole thing now. However, San Diego County Sheriff Bill Gore said Hannah Anderson was a victim in every sense of the word and did not willingly go with DiMaggio, which I don't think she did not willingly go with him. That's my opinion, because if you watch the movie, there were times where she wanted to escape, but it's just like he had her handcuffed and he had her pretty much to the point where she wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
So, you know, she was kind of held against her will. So it's not that she went because she wanted to. It's because he had kidnapped her and like manipulated her into going. So that's my whole theory on the situation. Gore also suggested that authorities may never be able to fully determine the reason for DiMaggio's crime rampage. According to Anderson, James DiMaggio had threatened to kill her and anyone who tried to rescue her, which they said that is something that happens in the movie. So that was kind of just like a brief overview. So now just like some facts, because they had some TV shows that kind of were, I guess, relative to the Hannah Anderson story. So the 2013 Criminal Minds episode Route 66 was inspired by the Hannah Anderson case. Sorry, allergies. In May 2015, the Lifetime TV network aired the made-for-TV movie Kidnapped, the Hannah Anderson story, which is actually the one that I watched. So it starred Jessica Amley as Hannah Anderson, Scott Patterson as James DiMaggio, and Brian McNamara as Brett Anderson. So real life Hannah Anderson was actually disappointed by the Lifetime movie.
Oh, wow.
Which I can understand that, you know, if you're, you know, you have this crazy story about what happened to you and they make a movie about it, like you're going to be a little bit skeptical of it. So like, I understand that. So she was angrily posting on her Instagram page that she never gave her permission or information for the movie, and that even the preview contained false facts and untrue events, which I feel like, you know, anytime they do like a made for TV movie or they do like a TV series about something, I don't feel like people fully do the research that they're supposed to be doing. And I feel like they don't fully get like the whole story because they could have talked to Hannah to like get her
Right, yeah,
like
yeah.
views on it and get her real life perspective on it.
Well, and that's true in the sense of like there's so many of those Lifetime movies. So it makes you really wonder, like, do they really talk to these people that it actually happened to them? Like that was the story, because a lot of those movies are like based on a true story, true events, or whatever.
Yeah.
So did they really like check the facts, basically?
I don't think they did, because it seems like Lifetime just kind of takes an idea and makes some money off of it.
Right.
So the Law and Order SVU episode Send in the Clowns was partially inspired by this case, in addition to the 2016 clown sightings. So we did have some comments. Michael S., which is actually one of my followers from my other channel, said that man was crazy.
Yeah.
After the story was on national news, I wondered if she was in on it. I watched the movie, but I feel the movie could have been dramatized. I mean, now that I actually went and watched some like original like TV spots about it and stuff like that, like original like news like reports about it. And I do think, you know, the movie did over dramatize certain things and it left me with a lot of questions. So I'm glad that I actually went and like kind of looked up like the real life news stories about it, you know, while I was doing my research.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know, like I kind of like, which is going to sound weird, I'm kind of interested in bringing to light like these stories. And like this stuff really does happen. And like people think it doesn't, but stuff like this really does happen. And you need to be careful.
Oh, yeah. Like us covering that other story about, you know, the girl in the basement.
Yeah.
That was like her father that actually,
you know, people aren't always what they seem.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to be real careful, I tell you.
Yeah. People aren't always what they seem, you know, just because somebody's family doesn't necessarily mean you can trust them. And as much as I hate to say that, it's true in some cases.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Cece has some just different statistics.
Yeah, I just kind of dug in a little bit, you know, about some facts about like how many people are kidnapped each year, which crazy things, you know, but hey, this is We Tell All, so we're telling all. But it basically is every 40 seconds a children goes missing or is abducted in the U.S. and approximately 40,000 children are reported missing each year. And FBI estimates that 85 and 90% of those are children. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children estimates that approximately 200,000 of the 260,000 children abducted each year are taken by a parent or a family member. And a lot of times that occurs basically in the midst of like divorces or custody battles or things like that, which, yeah.
In Hannah Anderson's case, her dad was away for work and her parents were in the process of possibly splitting.
Right. Yeah.
So that kind of
falls in.
Falls into that situation. Yeah.
But it talks about some family and parental abduction stats. It says 78% of abductors are non-custodial parents. 35% of children that were abducted were between the ages of 6 and 11. 24% of abductions lasted between 1 week and a month. So, I mean, you can imagine the terror of a child being like taken from somebody, especially. And I mean, in some situations, it could be like if they're younger kids, they might totally not understand what's going on. You know, the parent taking them could be like, oh, no, your mom said it was okay to take you, kind of thing. You know, I mean, a lot of those might not fall in the sense of where the child's like totally thinking they're being snatched up. You know, the parents could be on the fooling side here, you know.
Right.
82% of abductors intend to affect custody permanently. 21% or other relatives. 42% of children were living with a single parent. 15% were living with another relative or a foster parent. And then 66% were taken by a male relative, which is kind of, you know, I mean, I know there's some women out there that be a little crazy too, just
Yes,
snatching up their kids. So,
definitely.
but that I could see, I guess, why it's on the higher side for the males. But why do family members become abductors? Either they are dissatisfied again in a custody situation in court, or they may have been denied visitation for not paying child support. They're protecting the child or themselves from abuse. Maybe that child is in like a very bad situation. And, a lot of times, sometimes, and there's movies out there about that, you got one parent playing, they're trying to be the victim, but they're really not. They're the one that's actually causing the pain, but they make it see otherwise. So you have that child in a bad situation where they are getting abused. And so that parent's just trying to do it for the protection of that child to get it out of there. And again, it could be because they're angry, obviously, with a breakup, if
Right.
there was issues before. And obviously the thing that people tend to do, which is really the worst thing you do, is put the child in the middle of the situation and use them as like leverage.
Yeah.
So non-family abductors and stereotypical kidnappings, it says an estimated 58,200 children were victims of a non-family abduction. Non-family abductions occur when someone who is not a relative abducts and detains a child without lawful authority or parental permission with the intention to keep the child. There are also 115 stereotypical kidnappings. A stereotypical kidnapping occurs when a stranger or a slight acquaintance transports a child 50 miles or more from home and either kills the child, holds the child for ransom, or intends to keep the child permanently, which is sad because there again, there's movies on those ones where people abduct a kid and they have the child so brainwashed that they make them think that something happened to their other family member. So they raise that child and that child is in their care for 15 or 20 years before the realization of the fact that their real family member actually finds them. Remember, because I forgot, but there was a movie on Lifetime about that where the kid was like raised by these other people. And I think the mother never stopped looking for the kid. And it finally came to head. And yeah, it was like these people raised that child to believe that the mother was dead. And then here she comes,
marching into
popping
the
up,
picture. Yeah.
So again, 81% were 12 years or older in non-family cases. 58% were 12 years or older in stereotypical cases. In 40% of the stereotypical kidnappings, the child was killed. And another 4%, the child was not recovered. Again, another higher stat says that 80% of the perpetrators are male, which, is a little scary.
Yeah, it is.
And then, of course, nearly half of all victims were sexually assaulted. So, again, pretty sad out there to see some of those kind of numbers, But that was about all I was looked up on that situation, my dear.
Right. So Michael S. also said, then I think if she was in on it, I wouldn't have. Okay, I'm trying to understand your comment. I'm sorry, Michael. Then I think that if she was in on it, wouldn't she have had the guy kill the dad also? And both just the mom and brother. So now I'm thinking no. Which, I mean, I don't know.
Was the dad out of town when it happened?
The dad was out of town. He was in Nashville for work. So, I mean, I think it was kind of impossible for the dad to be killed in the situation.
Right.
Unless James DiMaggio knew some people in Nashville to kind of get in on the situation. But I don't know. Just like I rewatched the movie last night just to kind of like refresh my brain on like what the movie was and what happened in the movie. And I don't know. I just feel like there was definitely some parts missing, but I feel like they usually do that. I feel like they usually do miss some parts like here and there whenever they're trying to retell, I guess, like a real life story that happened.
Right.
They do change like certain things, especially if it's going to be on TV. Okay, so Michael S. was saying, I'm saying if she was planning it, she could have just planned something with DiMaggio when they all would be together. Yeah, okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah, which makes sense if she, I don't know. I think she was just really messed up by it.
Yeah, I
I don't
think
really think she was involved. I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but based on what it seems like.
so. Like if you watch the movie, like there were a few times where Hannah kind of, told James, like, you're being creepy, like you need to stop.
Right.
But like James was just so like manipulative that he basically was very good at just like trying to get her to keep quiet
Right.
about the whole situation. So Michael said, so now I don't think she had something to do with it. Doesn't make sense to leave one parent alive when you're 16 because the dad would still have control, which that, you do make an interesting point with that situation, if we're thinking about that, considering that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just some crazy stuff that happens out there.
I know, right? Yeah,
and I'm sure that there's more. There's more out there. I know that there's quite a few like different movies that I've watched on Tubi that were, made from different like true stories that happened. But I think the girl in the basement was probably the sickest one
that was bad. That was so bad. I mean, that was the girl's dad, and he he raped her so much. It was just insane. I mean, she had, what was it, a total of 5 kids.
I think she had a total of 6, actually.
Okay, 5 or 6.
Because one of them was left on the doorstep, if you remember, right?
To make them raise, because after she had like the third one, I think she said, I can't have another child down here.
Yeah.
So they made it seem like, and that's the thing that kept the mother, like, made it seem like she was just a runaway and didn't want to be there. Bad situation, so I'm going to leave my kid here. And the mom raised it, and unbeknownst to her, it was actually her grandchild. That was, that's a bad. I mean, that was one, like I said, I got kind of rigged in watching when I saw it.
Well,
I didn't expect it was going to end like it ended.
I'm surprised
what he did to her. I was like, oh my god! I don't know if I can watch some of that.
I'm surprised that it made it to Lifetime.
Right? Yeah.
Just because it was pretty like graphic,
right?
What they did with it.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael S. said, I have always been fascinated with the JonBenet Ramsey case. It wasn't a kidnapping, but ransom was involved, and I can't believe it's still not solved.
Oh, I know. I agree with you on that. It's like,
I think we should do some research on that one.
Oh, yeah, because it's crazy.
Michael, that's a good idea.
Like that whole thing, and didn't her mother?
I don't know much about this one.
I think the mom died not too long ago. Or either the dad, I think it was the mom. I think the dad's still alive, but I think the mom passed away. I think she had an illness or something. But yeah, that is crazy. But you're right. That's one that had a lot of publicity and a lot of shows on that one and all. So
yeah, and I just recently actually watched that one that they did on Casey Anthony on Peacock, and it kind of surprised me because by the end of it, I actually kind of felt bad for her.
Right, yeah.
In the whole situation, even though, we still don't really know what happened in that situation.
Found guilty on that, right?
No, she didn't.
Not guilty, yeah.
I don't know. After watching, did you watch that on Peacock?
No.
So I think after watching that series, I'm going to spoil it. I kind of think that her dad had something to do with it, because there's like some different specific parts of that one where it's like, you think that the dad might have been in on it.
Right.
Oh yeah, I think she wasn't, Michael said she was guilty.
Yeah.
I think she definitely wasn't a good person.
Right.
I'll say that much. Definitely not a good person. I'm still up in the air with my whole opinion on it, which that's just me. Michael said, I think she did it and the dad helped her cover it up. That could very well be it too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Because if you watch that documentary, that whole family was just like messed up in their own way.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of different thoughts and theories about that one, which we could honestly probably cover that one too at some point.
Yeah.
But
I know we seem to be covering some morbid like topics here lately. So, and we haven't really discussed our next week. And which was crazy because I almost had a thought earlier, but then
all
I
right,
thought,
what were you thinking?
I thought this was even as worse as it gets, but it is a good topic. And it can be kind of built with 1 and 2 is suicide and healthcare. You know, because mental health and all that kind of stuff, you know, that's really important for people. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, that might be something we could touch on.
We could touch on it,
and personally,
especially, yeah.
I've had there's been a relatable stories on the suicide sense that I can relate to in people that I've known in situations where that has happened. So, but, I think again, like just the importance of being able to just really talk to people about things and be open about things. And I'm kind of worried honestly about my cousin because I've got a cousin and he was supposed to have come to my dad's party. And the last time I talked to him, I just thought something was odd about the way he sounded. And he ended up not showing up. And I meant to text him and check on him and all that and see. But there's just, you know, sometimes people, you know, and you're like, okay, I could be worried about that person because you just know some of the things that have happened. I mean, he's my cousin, so he's had a lot of stuff mentally go on and affect him, and so anyway, I just, you know, that might be something that we might can kind of.
And I honestly think they don't value mental health as much as they should.
Right. Yeah.
Because I feel like mental health is kind of like I guess like center point of everything because
you have to be healthy.
Yeah, because I mean, like if you're overweight, like what's the first thing that like they try to fix? You know, they send the person to therapy to try to like find the underlying reasons as to, you know, what went on in their life and stuff like that. Like mental health is definitely like the centerpiece to pretty much everything. And I definitely think it's not valued, unfortunately, as much as it should be.
Right. Yeah. And it is good that we do have a lot more kind of like of the Hollywood media people that are stepping up, you know, and coming out and support mental health because, you know, so many people look up to people. And so it's good to be able to know, you know, and some of these athletes and stuff, you know, Michael Phelps is a big advocate for mental health. So yeah, that might be something we can kind of touch on for our next podcast.
And Michael S. says the biggest kidnapping cases that come to mind are Elizabeth Smart, which that's one that I keep seeing that movie on Tubi, and that's going to be my next one. Yeah. And Adam Walsh. I don't know if I know that one.
I think I've heard of that.
The Adam Walsh one is heartbreaking. That's a great topic for next week. I think that there's definitely we could probably do a couple different podcasts on like different kidnapping episodes because I think they all are so different in one way or another.
Right.
With just like what happened, and they're all very heartbreaking. But yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll toss around either we'll come up with do some mental health and episode or cover another story. We always do it on a whim now. So.
And I think it's kind of interesting where we've started and where we're at now.
I know,
because
Mike sex stories topics and to the kidnapping.
Michael S. I don't know if you were around this
channel. Listen to some of the first episodes.
So
they're very racy.
So our very first episodes, we had started out as basically a channel that talks about just strictly like dating and relationships, which we covered a lot of different topics. You know, we covered some racy, juicy topics as well. And, you know, but we were starting to run out of ideas. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, I feel like we had started to cover all whenever it comes to like dating and relationships.
We've hit it in some sexual like topics and everything. So yeah, go back and listen to some of those.
Yeah. So
we're kind of bouncing around now with topics.
So now, you know, we can't be two chicks tell all without telling all.
Right.
And I feel like, you know, we like to cover like a bunch of different things.
Right.
So we're trying to just like branch out. I know that the past couple episodes have kind of been interesting. Like last week we talked about Dr. Ruth.
Right. Yeah.
And like sex therapists. So, like we've covered definitely like a wide range of topics.
Oh yeah.
Michael said the America's Most Wanted show was started and founded by Adam Walsh's dad.
Oh
After
yeah. I
Adam
remember
was
hearing
found
that.
decapitated, his dad, John
Right.
Walsh. Oh, so John Walsh is his father.
Right, yeah. That was why I was like, wait a minute, that name. You're right. You're right about
So,
that. Yeah.
So he kind of took that situation.
Which actually they solved a lot of cases based off of that show.
I mean, obviously it's sad what happened to Adam Walsh, but I'm glad that John Walsh, kind of stepped up and
right, yeah.
Tried to I'm trying to think of the right word. Tried to just like help others who were in like the situation.
Yeah, make something good out of a bad situation. Yeah, he did end up by that show, they caught a lot of freaking people. So yeah. Kudos to that.
So I think that's about all we have for today, right?
Yep, that's about it. We got our dinner about ready to be coming out in the oven soon. So
yes. This is kind of like whenever we have podcast day, we usually we were bullshitting and just like watching Ally McBeal.
I love that show. So good.
So yeah, we were just like bullshitting for a while and watching Ally McBeal before we kind of came on and did the podcast. But we usually podcast and dinner.
Yep.
Usually once a week. That's what we usually do.
And then we do have The Voices on at 9 again. One more hour of that tonight. Tay-Tay's been on the Idol, which I like that American too. Idol. But I can't get it. Hulu Live dropped that network, so I got to go back and watch it on like the demand. So I've only been able to catch The Voice, which has been awesome this season. I love like Chase and Niles or now, however he says his name, with this little Irish accent. But yeah. So we're going to be eating up some lasagna and some salad and catching back up the last episode of Ally McBeal we were on.
Yeah.
Where the girl on there has a penis because it's a dude.
Listen, a lot of that stuff would not fly.
So now it would not fly.
I'm trying to think of how that would fly nowadays.
But
I'm on an Idol kick. I'm into it this year. My girl got eliminated already.
Oh, damn.
Lyric Medeiros was done after Hollywood, which I don't know. Like I kind of had different thoughts about how far she was going to make it, but I'm kind of glad that like, I don't know, they didn't really change her that much. But I'm very much rooting for Mariah Faith this year because I don't know if you know, but she's from like the same state that me and Cece live in right now.
Right, yeah.
So we're kind of rooting for her because she's like our hometown girl.
Pulling for the hometown girl.
And no, Michael, I was never on Idol. The only time I sing is in the shower. But anyway, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We love hearing from you guys.
And any episode ideas you have.
Yes, and don't be afraid to hit us up on email. We respond to all emails. And, if you have a story that you want us to cover, we'll gladly do it. So our email is 2chickstellall@gmail.com. So it's basically spelled exactly like our little insignia on the screen. 2chickstellall@gmail.com. So, don't be afraid to hit us up. We would love to hear from you. Guy or girl, any type of crazy story you have.
That's right. Hit us up.
Michael said this was fun. I love true crime topics. We do like covering some stuff like that.
Right.
Because I do find it very interesting, digging deep into some of these cases.
Oh, yeah. And we might actually could cast again because we're going to be around this weekend.
Yeah.
So we might could even cast again on Saturday, really.
I'd be okay with that. I'm sure I could cook something up by Saturday.
We could pop up on Saturday again. So Tay-Tay will let you know ahead of time. But appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yes. Thank you, Michael. We appreciate you. So anyway, this is 2 Chicks Tell All signing off. It's your girl Tay-Tay.
And Cece.
And we hope y'all have a great night.
Peace out.